What's up, everyone? This will be an update on the Graven Lab Silver Surfer. So I'm still working on the Amir Chrome version over here. I got, I'm slowly getting there because I keep screwing things up. Did all the prep work on the other one the other night, so everything's been base coated in black. I was testing all my different silvers out for the Surfer, for the silver version, and I came up with this right here, which is going to be the Mr. Color Gun Chrome. So it's got a slight reflection to it. It's not chrome. It's right between silver and chrome. So it's a really good finish, and I think this is going to be really nice for the different version. I was originally going to use a spray can chrome like this, and this is pretty good. But this is actually almost too chrome, and also I sprayed this like 2 days ago and it still hasn't dried, so this is not drying. So yeah, I don't think I can use this. I have to put it on so thick to get it to look like this, and actually this is the look I was going for anyway, so I think we're gonna go with this. This looks really slick. I'm gonna do a little shading on it, and then it will get probably like a semi-gloss finish to it. So I'll show you how I did that. Basically, everything got sanded with this 3M fine sanding sponge, and then I primed everything with Krylon Gray Max Primer, sanded everything again, and then I got a coat of Krylon Max Black Primer. So this is where we at right now, and what I'm doing from here is I am hitting it with this looks like a really janky video. I have a very used 3M ultrafine sanding sponge. This is like really used. It almost doesn't even sand. So let me come over to the bench real quick and show you what I'm doing. So what I'm doing is I'm taking this and I'm just going over this real lightly, just to polish this up, just a hair. I don't want it shiny, but I don't want it really matte. So I'm just going to real lightly, and you can see it kind of, oops, you can't see. It's not video. Shit. So I'm going this real lightly with this really used ultrafine sanding sponge. It's not even really sanding, it's just basically just polishing this out a little bit. And this will help take the that Mr. Colored Gun Chrome better. So I'm just going to do this to all the parts. And you can see it's not sanding, it's just kind of shining it up just a little bit. And just like that. And I'm not going to show you all the parts because it's the same thing. So we're going to do this. What we want it to look is kind of like this right here. It's got just a little sheen to it. And now I'm going to take this into the spray booth and we'll spray the metallic gun chrome. So let's do that. Okay, so we're in the spray booth and I've got Mr. Color number 104 gun chrome, the airbrush, and we just polish this up a little bit. Got this over thinned pretty good. Should get my airbrush. It's been sitting for a second. I'm gonna blow this off to get any dust off. Try to get dust off. It's like one of my biggest challenges is dirt in my paint. Alright, so we're going to start laying this on. going to put it on pretty wet. Just like that. Gives it a great silver look. So I think it looks pretty good. So we're going to let this dry. We're going to do all the other parts and we're going to let them dry. And then we'll come back and do just a very little bit of shading with some clear smoke, just real subtle in the shadows. So after I get everything sprayed with the chrome, we'll do a little bit of shading. So as I mentioned before, I was testing silver, so I went ahead and stripped those other two that were the ones I don't want. So down to bare resin again. I'm going to go ahead and hit with my Krylon. This is the paint and primer flat black. This will get it back to where I need to go before I start doing the chrome. So I just stripped it with some lacquer thinner. You do not want to leave resin in lacquer thinner; it will melt it. So just put it in there real quick to get the paint off, and now we're just going to hit this with this. And I put this on pretty wet. This is good stuff. It goes on smooth, dries relatively quick, and after I do that little polishing step, it's a perfect surface for the chrome. So this will dry to like a matte, even though it says flat, it actually dries to kind of like a semi-matte finish. So just like that. So I'm gonna let that dry for a couple hours, and I'll be able to do that little polishing step and then put the chrome on. So for the color Galactus, just got this approved by Mark. Now it's showing up a little redder in the camera, but it's got a little more purple to it. So I just got this approved, and let me show you how we did this. It looks freaking spot on to the rendering, the color reference I was given. So it's only two colors. It's a base coat of Mr. Metallic GX number 215, metal bloody red, and then a top coat of that with Mr. Color GX number 108, clear violet. It's a kind of a weird, almost a maroon type purplish color that's in the render, and this looks pretty much bang on to it. So let me show you how I did that. First of all, I gotta mix up some paint. I forgot to do that, so let me mix up some paint. I'll start with the base coat of GX red, metallic red. Now this stuff is really thick, and I was using my WADA HPCS Plus, so I'm gonna actually use my trigger, my pistol grip gun, because I can put it on it more smoothly. So I'm going to mix a bunch of this up. I reduce it 2 to 1, so I'm going to start off with 10 mils of paint to 20 mils of reducer, give me 30 mils altogether. That. And I was working on the silver, and actually I'm not real happy with the silver on the Silver Surfer, so I may revisit it. I don't know how to think about it. So those GX metallic paints, I really like them, but they're not real pigment heavy. So they don't cover very well. But they have a great look to them. So I'm going to show you on a finger what I did, because I did the shading also on that first piece to get approval. and it's a little hard to see that on such a small piece. So now this has been, as I mentioned before, I did all the prep work over the past weekend, a few days, which there was a lot more than anticipated. The prep on the proto castings was not that great, to be honest. I didn't know that until I started putting primer down. So what I did is I didn't videotape it because it's a lot of sanding, but basically everything got primed. I sanded everything lightly, then I primed everything with Krylon Max Gray Primer. Put on like 2 nice wet coats of that. I've used this before in the past. This is a really inexpensive primer. It's relatively thick and it goes on smoothly. Let that dry really good, and then I sanded it down with a 3M superfine sanding sponge. Basically took most of the primer off, and then I hit it with the once I was happy with that, I hit it again with the Krylon Max to check for any other errors. If I was happy with that, I did a very light sanding of that with the 3M ultrafine sanding sponge, and then I just did a base coat, a final base coat of the Krylon, not this, that's the clear, the satin clear I use, the Color Master Paint Plus Primer Flat Black, and that's what you're seeing here. And this stuff goes on really smooth. And I use flat because I'm not worried about it being a glossy surface for the metallics. I'm going to bump up my air pressure on this gun. So again, this is the GX Metallic Red, Bloody Red. And this is these pieces have been hard to handle. So right now it doesn't look like there's a whole lot on there. You got to build it up slowly because it doesn't cover well. It's kind of like you're putting it on and then you're like, I don't see anything. All of a sudden it kind of starts to show up. So I'm just going to do one part on camera because it'll be the same for everything else. And then all the joints will get a metallic color, and I'll probably just go through and hand paint those. I may put a little too much thinner in this. I may have over thinned it, especially with this gun. I could probably gotten away with thinning it a little less, but I'd rather again have it thinner and put on, just build it up. See, now you can start to see the metallic red starting to show up a little bit better. The trick is hitting this from all angles. I bought 4 bottles of this. That may not be enough. Probably won't be enough because I've been doing 2 of these, remember. I think I'll try to thin it less next time and then switch guns. Or airbrushes, I should say. So one thing with metallics, especially when they got big flakes like this, is you really want to fan it on. Normally you want to kind of like do a overlapping 50% thing, but when you have metallics with big flakes like this, you'll see lines. So you notice I'm kind of fanning it on, just real kind of lightly all over. And what that does, it helps spread out the metallic particles better. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and base coat everything in the red first. I was going to do the clear next on this, but I want to let it dry. I may let it dry overnight. See how far I can get, how much I got enough red to base coat one base tonight. But you can see how long this takes, just one piece. Again, these pieces, these are pretty massive pieces. So So that looks pretty good. Looks like I got it covered well. Maybe the key a little more. I tried to find a rattle can in this color, and I had a hard time. And the rattle cans, the paints are just thick. You know, I use them a little bit. I know a lot of guys use them a lot, but to me they're too thick. That's the problem I'm having with the silver I did last night. I really like it, but it's really thick. To get it to shine up, I have to put it really thick, and it's not drying, so I may have to find an alternative. Okay, so that's base coat. It looks pretty good. So I'm going to base coat the rest of one base tonight, and then I'll base coat as much as I can. We'll see how far we get with them, and then we'll do the clear purple after this has a chance to dry really good overnight. Because again, I want to do all the steps the same. Since you're doing clears, I want to make sure I do them all at the same time so they're all consistent, the same color. So there's the base coat of the GX Metallic Blood Red. So we'll come back when we're ready for the clear violet. Okay, so the next step on the Galactus color, so we did the base coat everything in the Mr. Color GX number 215. This is the Mr. Metallic Color Metal Blood, or GX Metal Blood Red. This took a lot of paint. It took 8 bottles to do both hands, and it was like $6 a bottle. So, but this is what we got. I'm going to just show you on the smaller part to do the next step because it's easier, and the fingers are very hard to handle and they're easy to drop. So I'm going to show you on a smaller piece. So in my cup right now I have Mr. Color GX number 108 Clear Violet, and I've got to mix 1 part paint to 1.5 parts thinner, and it's basically 2 coats of the clear coat of this color for the base, and then we'll go back and do the shading. So I'm going to hit it real quick, and I got my big fan gun on here, and I'm putting it on pretty wet. Get all the edges, and we do 1 coat like this. So it's after 1 coat. Then we go back and hit the edges again, like that. Now we'll do 2 coats. And it adds that nice layer of purple to that metallic red, which kind of gives us that burgundy color. So here's the piece I got approval on from Marcus, and here's this piece. Now this piece has been shaded and top coated with a satin clear, but the colors are the same. So hopefully this color will go pretty quick. It's got a hair in there. So if I see a little spot where I see a little too much red, I'll go back and I'll hit her again real quick. I gotta be careful though, because I'm gonna go back in with my other airbrush and tightly and do all the shading and stuff. So I'm gonna base coat everything, and then we'll come back and show some shading. Okay, so the next step in the purple, or this maroon purplish color for the Galactus color, is I'm going back in with the same color, Mr. Color number GX108 Clear Violet, and I'm just going to add some shadows to this. So it's just the same color, I'm just going to darken it and all the crevices and stuff. Now all these little areas in here, I have to look at the reference, but I think these get painted the metallic color like the joints do. I have to double check, but I'm going to go ahead and shade them anyway. So I've got that same paint loaded up into my Iwata HPC S Plus, and it's a relatively simple process. You know, it's just time consuming because there's a lot of it, but basically anywhere there's a recess or a panel or anything like that, we're just gonna go in there and darken this just like that. And you can see I'm pretty loose. Just gonna give this give everything some shape. And I'm backed up pretty far. It's rare that I get in real tight. I'm pretty loose with all this kind of stuff. Just kind of build it up till it looks like what I want. So I'll just do this part on in the video, and then the rest, you know, be the same on every other part. With all these recesses. And don't worry, because right now you'll see it kind of looks a little like there's some dry spray from the overspray. Don't worry, that'll get all taken care of when I put the top coat on, which will be a satin finish. So that'll go away. So just hitting these edges and the recesses. You don't need a lot. Get a little tighter here where it's a tighter detail. So this step is time consuming just because there's so much detail. We go around. And then we hit these little panel details right here. Like that. So until you get the top coat on, it's going to look all funny because you got the dry overspray where you're doing the shading. Again, that goes away once you seal it. Get a little tighter here where the panels are a little closer together. Again, it's still pretty loose. I'm going to go around this detail right here. I'm going to paint this a different metallic color. I'm going to shade around it. I'll get painted a different metallic. Maybe hard to see in camera because of the reflection of the lights, but you can hear something rattling around in here. These prototype castings weren't the best, to be honest. There's a lot of like holes and stuff in them. I fixed most of them, but they're not the best. I mean, the details are there, but it could have been better. I need to talk to Marcus about that. You have to go back and look at my reference to see which all of this gets a metallic color. So I'm just going to shade it for now. That way it's done. Guys been asking for videos on this, guys, so I'm trying to get one uploaded this weekend. I got footage recorded, I just haven't put it together yet. you can see, I'm kind of hitting down the recess and the edge at the same time. Okay, so for these areas, I'm going to just kind of, these are going to be pretty loose. That recess gets a little darker, I don't mind that actually, because it'll be a nice contrast. Hand gets cramped up pretty easily when I'm doing the shading technique, because it's, I don't know, I tend to tense up a lot. So the shading's not crazy heavy, but it's there. It's fine. It's tricky when you're doing clear colors because you have to make sure you're consistent all the way around. And the bottom of these I sanded a couple times and they're still a little rough, but this is a prototype. You're not going to see it. It's on the bottom, you know. What's up? It's this keys into that kind of rocky base part, so I'm not too worried about it. I actually really like this color. It's kind of a cool reddish purple. Really pretty. And then when we get the metallics and the joints and stuff, it's going to really pop. Okay, so I think this looks pretty good. Again, the shading's there. It's subtle. I think that looks pretty good. So I'll let this dry for a few minutes, and I'll come back and I'll seal it, and then we'll put it next to the my reference piece I did. As I was spraying all the other parts, I checked every piece against that first reference piece to make sure I'm pretty close, and I think I've got everything pretty much spot on as far as tonality and everything matching. There may be a slight difference between some of it, just, again, because you're dealing with clear colors, and you know, it's very that's part of the difficulty, is staying consistent between all those different layers. But I think this looks pretty good. So let me go get that reference piece. Okay, so this is the piece that I painted. I got approval from Marcus. Now this has been sealed already, so it may look a little different, but if you put that on there, you can see that the colors are spot on. They match very well. So you can see that how nice and smooth this looks. Well, this looked like this, kind of that rough and dry spray before I sealed it. So that sealer, put on 2 or 3 really nice wet coats of it, and it just smooths everything out very nicely. So we're gonna let this dry for 15-20 minutes. I don't want to put the sealer on right away, and then we'll seal it, and then we'll compare it again. But I think we're gonna be pretty much spot on to this, and then I'll do all the other parts. This one alone took me, what, 14 minutes to shade. We've got 10 fingers and 1 other hand to do. And then after that, we'll seal it all really good, and then I'll go back and look at the reference and see where I need to paint the metallics. Like, I'll paint these little nut details in metallic. I had to see if these lower stripes go metallic, if they stay this purple. I know that in between the joints goes metallic, and then that will take a little bit of time, but so looking good so far. So we'll come back and seal this here in about 15 minutes. Okay, so this is dry for about 20 minutes, and I'm going to hit it with the Krylon Color Master Clear Satin Crystal Clear. And I actually really like, for the longest time I wasn't using Krylon stuff, because I always thought that it was, had this kind of thing that maybe it wasn't good stuff, but the more I use it, the more I like it. I really like the finish of this. It's been pretty damn durable. I pretty much have stayed away from the hobby stuff, like testers and stuff, because like this can is like $4, and a little tiny can of testers is like $7. And I get really inconsistent results with that. So I've been using this, and I've been really liking it. So, shake it up really, really good. And we're going to put this on. And I put it on fairly wet. And you can actually get different finishes out of this depending on how wet you put it on. So like the flat, the Krylon flat, if you put it on wet, it comes out more like a semi-matte. You do have to do it quick because it dries this dries relatively fast, so you know you don't want a dry edge. So I'll put 1 wet coat on, I'll let that dry for a bit, and then I'll put another 2nd wet coat on, and probably even a 3rd, just to really, really seal it really well. And as this dries, my shading will pop back. As you spray a clear coat, any kind of shininess kind of kills any shading you've done, but a matte or a satin clear coat will bring it back. Is really smooth, and as it dries, the finish is really pretty on it. I really like it, and it seems pretty durable. I mean, it's like once it dries and cures. So there you go. So I'll let this dry. You can see I put quite a bit on. I'll let this dry for a while, and then I'll do it again, and then we'll see that it's a nice satin finish. So I won't record that. I'll show you this after it's done drying. Okay, so let that dry, hit it again, and we're looking good. Colors match really well between this and the hand, and we'll just continue with all the other parts, and then this color will be done. So next part will be doing the metallic hand painting once this is done. So we'll do that later. So stay tuned for that. Okay, so part of the challenge with this piece is handling the pieces. So I've got one of the waves here mounted to kind of a stand. I've got a couple screws going up to the bottom holding it in place, and I've screwed this down to here, and it barely fits into the booth. But if I'm real careful, it's turn real slow because it's very top heavy. It wants to fall over. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and spray this with a good dose of clear coat, my 2K clear coat, and let this cure and get it nice and glossy. And then I'm going to go in with some dark purple. I'm going to shade in all the grooves, and then we're going to give it a light coat of purple overall. So first we're going to clear coat it. I don't have room in here to videotape it. I am going to use my little HVLP gun here to do that because it's so big. And you can see here where they've gone in and they've glued in some of the tips that were casted separately. Now a few of these on the other one broke off. I have to go back and glue them on myself, but you can see here these were like casted, this like was casted separately and glued in. Same here, so you will probably see some of these lines and there's not much you can do about it, but we're going to clear coat this and let it cure and we'll get it nice and shiny. So like I said, I probably won't videotape this one. I'll see how it goes, and if it goes well, I'll videotape the next one. So stay tuned. Alright, well, I'm going to try to record this. My battery's almost dead, but we'll see if we can back out enough. So I'm going to use my standby U-Pull Automotive Clear. It's 4-to-1. I got these little mixing cups from the paint store a couple weeks ago, and they have all your ratios on here. So for 4-to-1, I'm going to use this one here. So it's 4-to-1 to 1-to-1, so I can mix to the one for clear and then to the next one for hardener. So I'm going to go to 2 and 2 on this. Maybe more than that. Maybe I'll mix it up. I'd rather have, again, more than not enough. So I'm going to mix it to 3. This is going to take quite a bit to get this to slick out the way I want. So I go to the first line, label 3, like that. That's my clear. And then to get the 1 ratio, so I went to the 3 down here, and then we go to the 1, or go to the next 3 in line, and that'll give me my 4-to-1 ratio. There. So now I've got 4-to-1 clear coat to hardener. So you get pretty dusty in here pretty quick. I'm going to roll my respirator. I'm going to close my door all the way to avoid any overspray, as little overspray going out to my work area as possible. Put some gloves on. I had if you can believe it, luckily I had nothing painted in the paint booth, my spray room earlier today. I had a bottle of black spray paint explode in here, and it's a fucking mess. I just about lost my shit. I mean, sometimes you have a project that just doesn't go your way. The Silver Surfer's kind of been one of those. Just not jiving. So make sure you stir this up really, really good. I've got some filters. Leave that right outside my booth. Just mix thoroughly. Filters. So I bought some paint filters specifically for this purpose, so I can filter out clear coat and stuff. So I got my mini HVLP touch-up gun. I'm gonna pour the clear coat into there. I have a stand, but it's up here. That actually only works for big guns. And try to go to this. This helps get any stuff out from. So that gives me about 3/4 of a gun full of clear coat, which should be plenty for this. Get my respirator on. And then I'll get my gun set the way it needs to be. I'll blow this off with some compressed air. My battery's pretty low, so hopefully I got enough to record a little bit at least. Right there. Okay. I'm gonna turn it real slow because this thing is really freaking heavy. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to set my PSI on my gun. Unfortunately this thing is a little... Where am I at? Okay, so I got my fan pattern about medium. I got my fluid nozzle open up pretty good. Hopefully you'll be able to see some of this. It turns into glass pretty quick. I've got some scuff marks here from the factory. Let's see if those come out. I thought they would fill in with some clear, but we'll see. I hit my pattern nozzle and it went to like a jet real quick. Still recording? Gotta check. Yep, still recording. So you can see that that turns it pretty clear, pretty quick. Alright, so that's one coat. We're going to let that flash off, or flash off again if you don't know what that means. It means you're going to let the flash off means basically let it dry between coats. And I got a little heavy over here when I first started, and I got a drip on the tip of this, so I'm going to get a Q-tip and just kind of hit that. Got a little heavy at first, too close, too much material coming out. That's pretty good so far. Yeah, I probably went on a little heavy. Too much fluid coming out. So I'm gonna let that flash, let that dry for 10 or 15 minutes, and we'll put on a second coat. Okay, so it's been about 10 minutes. It's just tacky to the touch at the bottom here. So what I've done is I've increased my pattern all the way open. I've reduced the amount of fluid coming out, and I've increased my air pressure a little bit. I've got a couple sags, meaning I put too much material on. So I'm hoping that as this cures, this will kind of settle out a little bit. If they're super noticeable, I'll wet sand them out, but luckily this thing looks like a wave, so I don't think it's going to be that bad. Again, I was spraying, and I kind of hit this adjustment, which is the pattern adjustment, which is about, it's a little too easy to do. It kind of went in a jet spray rather than a fan spray. So now I've got my air pressure turned up, fluids down, and my pattern's wide open, and I'm going to fan over this again one more time. So getting this to slick out over a large area is much more difficult than doing it in a small area. It's looking pretty good. It's a big piece. It's very cumbersome. Trying to get clear coat into all the little grooves and stuff. Getting it on wet enough so I don't get any more sags. This is the back of it right here. This is the part that will face that is the back of the wave. Just trying to get any major orange peel out. This will settle down and slick out a little more as it cures overnight. It's 2 in the morning now. So I'll let this sit for a good 8 hours or so in here before I move it. I'll need a good probably 24 hours before I do the next step, but I'll have to mount the other one on another board too. I'm most concerned what it looks like from this side, because this is the front. Although I wanted to look good all around. This is the side that you're going to see when it's on display, so. I mean, this is the more important side. I think it looks pretty good. It's pretty slick. Got a few little drips here and there, but I think as it settles out, it'll be okay. That first coat I put on was just way too heavy. This is only the second time I sprayed with this gun too, so it's just not being familiar with it. Kind of scared to keep turning it. It was very cumbersome on this kind of janky mounting system I made, but how much clear do I got left? I think I'm just about out. Yep. So I'm out of clear, which is perfect. I make just the right amount, and so there we go. So it's like one way over wet coat to start with, and then I just kind of thinned on a couple extra coats there, as you kind of saw. So I'm just going to run some thinner through this, straight lacquer thinner through my brush, through my my spray gun here. Making sure not to get on the wave. And I'm just going to let that sit overnight in there, because I don't have a proper cleaning station. Alright, just gonna hang that up over here with the rest of my guns, and I'm gonna go to bed 'cause it's late. It's like 2:30 now, 2:30 in the morning. So what did I do today? I got the shading done on the purple on the Galactus hand. Got that sealed, looks pretty good. Got a base coat of black on the rocks, and I kind of got this figured out. So we're getting there, guys, slowly but surely. We're getting there. Looking good. Stay tuned for the next part. Okay, so this is I got about 5 hours of sleep last night. This is dried for about 6 hours, and technically it's dry according to their U-Pole's instructions. Basically, it says on here, where is it? It says on the can usually somewhere. No, I thought it did. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and do the purple now, and for that, I could have saved myself a step, I guess. I do have some violet tint for clear coat that I got from Angel Gilding. It actually might be the perfect tone. Let me see. I'm gonna mix this up. I'm gonna use my for this. I'm gonna use my Iwata airbrush instead of the big guy. Oh man, my paint room's a wreck. There's stuff everywhere. So nearly spent a serious day cleaning again. I gotta get my airbrush. Airbrush are going here. So I'm going to go back in with the automotive clear again. I probably could have saved the steps and just done this all at once, but I want to get this looking like this. I want to get the glass first before I started putting on the purple. So I'm going to mix up. Where did my mixing cups go? Again, I got stuff everywhere. It's a mess in here. What's happening? What am I doing? There we go. Anyway, I can just use one of these. I'm going to mix up some more clear. And then we'll add some tint to it. I'm going to pause and come back once I'm organized. Okay, so I can't find my measured mixing cups because my place is a mess. I've got my clear in here. There's way more than I'm going to need, but again, I'd rather have more than not enough and waste a little bit. This stuff isn't too expensive. I'm going to try this violet tint from Angel Gilding. Let's see what this looks like. Ooh, that's probably perfect. Pretty potent stuff, so okay. Let's see what this looks like. I don't even know how many drops I put in there, to be honest. That last one, but it's probably maybe 8 to 10 drops in here. Start spraying and see what it looks like. Filter again. The more I paint lately, the more I was like, man, I wish I had this in my workspace. I wish I had this. Man, if I have so many things I would love to have in my work area. One of them is this spray room is pretty good, but it could be a lot better. Anyway, this cup is too small to put a filter on top of it, so. Okay. Take this off. Get my respirator on. And we'll see how this goes. Hopefully I can get away with 1 or 2 coats. Tell right away I don't have enough tint in here, so I'm going to add quite a bit more. I don't want to put a lot more clear on here. I like to put like 1 or 2 coats on. There we go. Got way too much clear here, but that's okay. I'll waste quite a bit. But now I'll know for the next one. If I had another block, well, no, I need to leave this in here while this dries. I can mount the other one and get it going, but there we go. So while I'm spraying, I'm looking at it from an oblique angle so I can see the highlights from my work lights onto the clear coat. So what I'm looking for the texture of the clear, looking for it to look like glass. When I'm spraying an area, once it turns to glass, once it looks really smooth, then I move on to the next area so I can work the orange peel out. So in order to do that, you need to look at the reflection of the light. You know, old middle school science, angle of reflection, angle of deflection. So look at it from a way that you can see that you're getting a bright highlight on the clear coat. I'm not looking for really the coverage, I'm looking for the texture of the clear. That's pretty good. That's like the perfect color. Man. that showing up in camera? I think it is. I should have used this gun last time we did the first clear. It puts it on just the right thickness. So this is the front of it, and this looks freaking phenomenal. Damn, looks so good. Too bad it's not backlit. You'd really see it. Let me let's see if I can get a light back there. Oh, this came undone. Let's see what that fucking. 1 second. Alright, so I'm going to let this dry, flash out 10-15 minutes, and we're going to put another coat on, and I think 2 coats is going to do it. This looks really good. So I hope Marcus likes this because it can't go back. I'd have to strip this whole thing. There's like really no way to do that. So it's kind of got a nice blue purple tint to it. I think it looks good. So I'm going to send a picture to Marcus and see what he says. Okay, so I let this sit just for a few minutes because what I want to do is I want to really go in and slick this out. So this will be the last coat of this clear coat on here. This is what another term for this is when you kind of put a coat on, don't wait as long as you normally would, and then put another coat. It's called the flow coat. And basically what that does is it's exactly what it says. It's flowing the clear coat, letting it kind of all melt together. Well, my card filled up, so I'm not sure how much I got, but anyway, I was saying that you have to move quick to do this so you don't get a dry edge. So this is looking really good. And initially I plan on going in and doing some like shading, but I don't have to because the resin, just the way it's cast, it just naturally kind of does it on its own. So I think this looks really good. The color's like spot on to the reference. So we're gonna let this cure for a good 8 hours in here or so, and then I'll have to let this sit for a day or two actually before I take it off of the blocks. I want this nice and hard before I handle it. So I could probably take it off of this, or take this off of here and put it somewhere out of the way, but I can't touch this for a good 8 hours. It's got to sit in here and really cure up before I can do anything with it. So, but this looks really good. It looks a little dark right now because there's no light behind it. If I had a light, I could show you, but I don't. But this is gonna look awesome when it's lit up, guys. It's gonna look freaking cool. So there's the wave painted. Looks awesome. So This work in progress video is going to be really freaking long, because I have a bunch of clips. This is going to be really long. It could be like 4 or 5 hours. Who knows? But anyway, that's the wave. The next thing I'm going to do while this cures, I'm going to work on painting the rocks of the base. Okay, so continuing on with the Silver Surfer. This is the painted version. So I'm at the point now where I just got to get this done. I'm going to worry about the chrome version a little bit later. So I'm painting the silver onto the silver version. Now I've got the heads and arms painted. This is after I sprayed a really nice coat of gloss clear on it. I changed it to silver a little bit. Basically, I'm mixing up Mr. Color number 8 silver with Mr. Color number 105 gun chrome. So I've got a little bit of basically like a one-to-one mixture of the number 8 and the number 104, and it's giving me the tone I want and the amount of sheen I want. So I've already got the heads and the arms sprayed. You can see I got the board sprayed there. I'm spraying the body right now. And I got this in my nice big Iwata HPTH gun. I'm going to probably pick up another one of these this year at Wonderfest from Thomas Grossman. I really like this gun. It's a beautiful spraying trigger gun, so I'm going to probably pick up another one from him. I tell you what, this is one of, seeing it, even though it's like only really one color, this is one of the toughest paint jobs I've done. Keeping dirt out of this and making sure the surface is as clean as possible has been a nightmare. This is like the 3rd time I've gone over him, and at this point it's just kind of is what it is. I've come to the realization that I'm going to have dust in my work. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm constantly blowing it off. You know, as a hobbyist, you don't have a perfectly clean spray room. I don't know anyone does. But I'm doing my best to keep this as clean as possible. So we're going to coat this stuff in a couple coats of the silver mixture that I got going. I really like it. And then we're going to let it sit. And then Marcus wanted some shade. Like, I got a little speck right there, just bugging the crap out of me. I got to be careful because I can't really go in there and mess with it once I kind of start spraying color on it. So, yeah, it's like the 3rd time I've gone over this guy. I've stripped him twice already, and this is the 3rd time I've painted him. Just trying to get it as clean as possible. And I just kind of like, okay, at this point it is kind of as clean as it's going to get. You would think that this would be a relatively easy paint job. This is one of the hardest ones I've done so far. Simply because you can't hide anything. There's nowhere to hide any little errors in the surface or anything like that. And that's like the chrome version too right now. I'm going to have to revisit that one. So I need to get this one done into the factory. Marcus has been patiently waiting for me to get this done, and I keep saying my personal life has been crazy busy. So my goal is to get this done this weekend. So I already sprayed the bomb his feet before I hung him up. So everything has gotten like 2 nice coats of this silver. So it should have nice even coverage. And this spray gun sprays such a nice wide pattern that it makes spraying a metallic like this relatively simple, because when you're spraying a metallic like this, you need a really wide pattern to make sure you don't get any streaking. If I was doing it with like a just normal airbrush, streaking would be really easy to. It'd be really hard to avoid any streaking. So this I can just kind of really fan it on in a really nice even color, and I do like this color. The gun chrome's a little bit brighter than the silver, and so it's a nice mixture. And I get a nice little kind of reflectiveness in it. It's a really nice mixture. So I need to let this dry for a little while. I've got some spoons sprayed already. I'm going to test some sealers on it. And then Marcus wants some shading in it, so there's a speck of dirt right there in the freaking board, and I don't know if I should try to mess with it or just leave it. Probably going to hurt myself if I try to get it out. So it's like sometimes you just got to deal. Sometimes you got to deal with it, you know. Just got to go with the flow. So that's 2 coats on everything. I'll let this dry for a little while. Check it out. Make sure that everything's coated really well. The hardest part is really the torso, to make sure I get up underneath the crotch and up underneath the legs really well. It's hard to see sometimes. And that's another advantage to this big spray gun, is that it does a really good job of just kind of getting paint everywhere. So I'll probably pick another one of these up at Wonderfest this year because I really like it. I wouldn't mind having a couple more actually. So there we go. That's the silver on this. That's the basic color. Let this dry for a while, and then I'm going to seal it. I want to seal it before I do any shading on it because I want to make sure that it's got a nice protective coating on it. Because silver is very susceptible to showing damage and dings and stuff like that. So, and I've been fighting that big time on this paint job. So there's that. There's the base coat of silver. Alright, so continuing on to the endless collection of clips for the Silver Surfer. I'm going to show you how I'm going to tackle the gauntlets, or the gauntlet. I've started one already, and this is kind of where we are right now. I sent Marcus a photo last night, but it looked really red in my photo. My cell phone tends to add a lot of red to photos, so this is where we are right now. I'm going to add a little more gold to it. So I'm going to show you how I got this far, and then what we're going to do next. So this is actually probably one of my favorite parts of this entire piece is the gauntlet. It's beautifully sculpted and the details are really pretty insane. So let's show you how we're going to go about doing this. The last step will be to color all the infinity stones. Oops, sorry. My camera rig has failed once again. One second. Welcome to the Polish videographer hour. Alright, it wouldn't be a Morozek photo video without our Morozek Matt Smiles custom video without something falling apart or going wrong. What was I saying? So I'm going to show you how I got to here first, and then we're going to go further. The last step will be to have to hand paint the infinity stones, their correct color. So I'll probably base coat those in a silver, and then do a hand paint a gloss, an acrylic gloss over on top of those. So first step was to assemble the gauntlets. They come, all the fingers are casted individually, and this little piece on the thumb is individual. What you're seeing there, that wet stuff, is just my super glue accelerator. So I'm going to dry that real quick. So we're gonna go. I sent Marcus that photo of it the other night, and like I said, my photos look really red. So he's like, it looks really bronze. Well, it kind of. Again, my cell phone tends to add a lot of red to photos for some reason. I don't know why, it just does. I've had these for a long time, and I forget that I have them because I've used them a few times, but I always forget that I have them. These are the AK Interactive True Metal. These are colored wax, and they're really freaking amazing. They're super easy to use. They look amazing. You can top coat them. The gauntlet I just showed you had been top coated with Krylon semi-matte, and it still retained its reflectiveness and everything. So these do really well because when you spray the gloss coat or the top coat on there, it's not attacking the pigment, so it retains its kind of that luster. So what I did first is I started actually off with a base coat of copper. And you really can't screw these up. I mean, they're really easy to use. I have a palette over here that needs to be cleaned desperately, but first I'm just going to take a, oops, I squeezed the tube a lot, so now it's coming out. So just put a little bit on your palette or whatever you're using. I'm just using an old, just kind of a really crappy brush. It doesn't need to be a nice brush. Get some more light down here where I'm working. I'm going to just put this to the side and bring my camera over a little bit. I've been mounting my camera / cell phone to one of my work lights, and it gives me a good vantage point as far as to show you guys what I'm doing. It's just not the most stable setup. Again, I need like a permanent top-down mount, so and I can kind of see what I'm doing because I can see my frame. Give me a second to get this lined up better. Okay, anyway, there we go. That's good enough. Alright, so I got some of the, it's right here. Just get your brush, and again, you really can't mess this up, and just start putting it on. And you don't have to be real careful with brush strokes or anything. For this base coat, I'm just making sure I get it everywhere, and all the nooks and crannies and stuff. You can see I'm not worried about brush strokes. I'm just slapping it on there. I did that first gauntlet as a test to see if this is the direction I wanted to go, and it was looking better than I anticipated. It's not done yet, but it's gonna work. The reference Marcus sent me this morning as far as what he wanted is exactly what I had pictured in my head, so these are the first few steps to get there. And the reason I'm not going straight to gold is because I wanted some tonal variation in there, and you're gonna see why here in a second. And gold is an interesting color. Well, all colors are interesting, but gold's a really interesting color because there are so many different shades of gold. I mean, gold can be anywhere from yellow to blue to green. It can have so many different shades to it, and still be gold and still look gold. So you kind of have to decide. I decided that I think we should do a warm gold, and that's why I'm starting with this copper kind of as a base coat. And when I saw the reference photo this morning, I was like, yep, that's exactly what I had in my mind. So perfect, we're on the same page. I'm just gonna make sure you get all this area back here. This will be permanently attached to the arm that this goes to. It's like I should put a magnet, but there's no reason to put a magnet. I'll pin and glue it because there's no switch out for that arm, and this attaches to it. Let's go ahead and record this real time. I mean, this work in progress is going to be crazy long as it is, so why not make it really long? But so these waxes, as you put them on, as they start to dry a little bit, because they never actually really dry all the way. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I don't know that for a fact, but it's a wax, so you can actually kind of polish it. So you put it on here, you can kind of, and I don't even care if I see some of the black coming through. That's fine. I just kind of want an even copper look to this. Some of the black is showing through a little bit. That's okay. It's all going to add to the final look that we're going for. I have a lot of supplies that I kind of forget that I have because I get kind of in a routine of using certain techniques and things. And I'm like, oh wait, I got this other stuff that would do exactly what I want, and it's something I haven't used in a while. And it works great. I have these too. I got these from Blackheart Model. I'm not sure who the manufacturer is, but the same thing is they're waxes. They're colored waxes. There's vacuuming in the background, so I apologize, but hopefully it won't be too loud. I have a mic, but I don't like to wear it because sometimes it works and sometimes it's hard to work with it attached to me. Sometimes I forget I have it attached and I go to walk off and I pull crap off my workbench. Just making sure I can get it everywhere. Like I said, I don't mind if I see a little of the black coming through. Oh, by the way, this black is just Krylon's a 2-in-1 primer / paint, the satin black. It's actually a really nice finish on it. I really like it. It's got a nice sheen to it. And if your parts clean really well, it bonds very well and it gives you a really good surface to work on. I've been using a lot more rattle cans lately. I was kind of anti-rattle can for the longest time. It's like, oh, they can't. The truth is, rattle cans can be just as good, if not better, than some of the hobby paints. You know, they're designed, a lot of them are designed to be used outdoors, where our hobby paints are not designed to be used outdoors. I'm starting to try to convert the colors I use the most into automotive colors, like blacks, whites. It's just more cost effective and they're more durable. You know, I've been spending crap, especially like on the Silver Surfer. This is, I've mentioned it in a few previous clips, I think, that will be part of this work in progress, but it's been like this project has actually been a really pain in my ass. Because I'm trying to learn the spray chrome, which has been a huge learning curve. I've spent a ton of money and a ton of time trying to get there. I'm getting better. I will now be attempting my 3rd time on it, and then it is what it is. I'm not going to keep going because part of my biggest nemesis is dirt, and I've stripped it and repainted it 3 times trying to avoid dirt. I have to accept a certain amount of dirt in my stuff just because of my spraying environment. And even in a commercial environment, you will get some dirt in your paint every once in a while, but it's just what it is. It is what it is, and I have to just kind of be willing to put up with that. You know, I'm just trying to get the surface as perfect as I can, but again, there's no such thing as a perfect piece in my opinion. But after doing this my 3rd on the chrome version, the 3rd time, I'm like, okay, it is what it is. It's going to be what it is. It's looking good, but you know, pretty damn nitpicky. Try to get everything the best I can. Okay, so that's it for the copper. Actually, it's a really pretty color. So now we're going to go with the gold. And this gold tends to be kind of a yellow-green. So it works really well on top of this copper. So I'm going to put a little bit over here. I'm going to use the same brush. Oh no, I used a bigger brush, I think. Yeah, I used a bigger brush last time. And I'm going to dry brush this, just like you do with any other dry brushing, but it's with a wax. I put a little bit on my brush. I take a good portion of it off, and then we're start. I'm not even going to seal this. I do see a little. Oops, that's the wrong color. I'm going to do copper. Coco. My dog is being a little twerp. Okay, I screwed it there a little bit. Okay. So I'm going to get a little gold on my brush here. It's a big brush. Take most of it off. I'm going to start dry brushing this on there. And it'll catch the high spots mostly. And so once I do this, I'm going to go back and I'm actually going to buff it on the whole thing. But I want to hit the high spots first because that's where I want the most buildup. On the high spots. So I want that copper to kind of be my first step in the weathering of this thing. Because we're going to go for like an aged gold. Like this thing's been through some stuff, you know. It's been around for a long time, so we want to kind of make it look like that. It may be hard to see because it's actually very reflective, and the lights will make it maybe hard to see what's happening here, but hopefully it's picking up in camera that the high spots are getting a good dose of the gold, and the low spots are getting some too, but we're going to go back here in a second and kind of buff the whole thing out, but I want to get the high spots first. So that when I go buff the whole thing, they get hit again, and the lower spots just get a little bit. That makes sense. So we're building up layers of gold. So that other one has already has had this step done, and it's been sealed with the semi-gloss. And I'm going to hit it one more time with gold. See if I see a little spot where, like I said, I don't mind seeing a little bit of black, but I don't want to see solid black. So there's a little spot right there where I missed. It's just, you can see it's solid black. It doesn't look like it has any copper on it at all. I don't want that. I don't mind the copper looks a little thin. I just don't want to see solid black. So when you dry brush, you want to go perpendicular to any details. So like these ribs in the fingers, I'm going this way on them. And then it's got some details here, so we go perpendicular to that, perpendicular to the infinity stones, even though those are going to get painted over later. What you can see is that we're starting to get that gold look, but it still's got the copper undertone. The copper will be much less noticeable by the time we're done, but it'll still be there. So here's some areas where I see solid black. I don't want to see solid black. I'm just going to hit that again. It's great because I can kind of just work wet, like a wet on wet technique. I don't have to really let any of this dry too much. Just keep going working. So we're about done with the initial dry brushing. All the high spots got a nice highlight on them. My dogs are freaking out outside because we have them locked out. Oh my gosh, you guys are killing me. Okay, my dogs are freaking out. Now we're going to go back in and I'm going to get some more gold on here. And I'm just going to lightly kind of hit the whole thing. Not really concentrating on the high spots. I'm actually kind of buffing the whole thing now. And this is getting gold on the high spots again, but it's also just kind of glazing over the copper. Again, I don't care if I want to see some of the copper through this. I don't want to cover it up 100%. So that's like the first step in our weathering that we're going to do. So now we're getting more we're getting more gold look to it, but we still see the copper in there as an undertone. And all the high spots are getting another hit of the gold, so it's just brightening those up even more. You can see I'm not being real careful with what I'm doing. I'm just putting it on there. And that's really it for this step. So now I need to go seal this with the semi-gloss. I'll have to do that outside because my spray booth right now has the chrome silver surfer hanging in there drying. So I just hit that. I'm starting over again one more time to try to get the chroming down the way I want it. I go let my dog in. She sounds like she's dying. Basset hound. Alright. So the one on the left is the one I did the other night that I sent to Marcus. It's been top coated. Here's the one on the right that I just did, and you can see that they look virtually identical. Like this side one actually looks a little nicer. It's got a little more sheen to it. It's got the semi-gloss look to it. So we're gonna go seal this one, let that dry for a little bit, and then we're gonna do our first wash, maybe only one wash. So I want to get some dirt and grime in it, all these crevices and details in here. So we're going to do that next after this has been sealed and dried. And I think I can get away with sealing it after that, and then one more hit with the gold, and then the gold will be done. So we're going to seal this and come back and do the next step. So I'm going to use some of this. This is from MIG of Ammo by MIG. This is old stuff, and there's actually very little of this left, but I really like this. This is a Black Knight panel line wash. It's basically really dark brown with a little bit of black. So we're going to test it out on this one. And basically I'm just going to kind of rub it all over this. And hopefully I got enough for both of these, because this is like the exact color I want. If Charlotte keeps whining, I'm going to need you to take her out for a very, very long walk, like around the block 5 or 6 times. Okay? So I'm going to put this on very liberally. Then you need to go somewhere else with your tablet, because I need to be able to work up here. And I can't record while you're watching TV down there. It's too loud. So I'm going to put this on. Is that the TV, Owen? Yeah. Don't watch that show while if I can hear it, because that is literally the most annoying noise I've ever heard in my entire life for those two voices. It actually puts me in a really bad mood. My kids watch these guys, Pat and Jen, and these are grown adults, and all they do is play Minecraft on YouTube. They have the most annoying voices. It makes me mad just listening to them. So annoying. Okay. Hopefully I got enough of this for both. I think this is going to do exactly what I want to do. You can see I'm just putting it on there, not being too careful. Okay. I'll let this dry a little bit, not too much. This is an enamel, so okay. Okay, so we're going to let that sit for a second. Okay, just got a rag here. I'm just going to start wiping this off real gently. Hopefully this doesn't eat through. Yeah, uh-oh. So now I got a problem. This is eaten through the Krylon. I hope I picked the right one. Hopefully this isn't the one I just did. Because if it is, I'm screwed. I gotta start over. This one I just sealed? I don't think so. This one I sealed last night. Well, let's wipe this off and see if we can salvage it. Yeah, you get to watch me screw up. Yay. Yeah, it's taking all the way down to the, it's going all the way down to the black. So I'm gonna get most of this off. That's weird, I've never had that reaction before. See, this project has been like this. I've had just weird things happen. The silver, even though it's one color, has been killing me. It's just been really just kind of one of those things I just want to be done with it. Sometimes you have a project like that where nothing goes your way, and this is one of those projects. So I'll probably have to recoat this in the black again, which is not the end of the world. It actually does kind of give it a cool look. Not the look I'm going for, but it's weird. It really came off there on the top of the hand. It didn't come off down here. It's weird. So it's weird, like it only came off, really came off in that area. Huh, who knows? So the thing we're going to do is avoid the enamel wash. That's enamel. I really like that color though, because it's nice and dark. It's the darkness I want. And I got some Novoleja, which are water-based. So this one I will have to recoat in black and redo the copper and the gold again. So I'm going to pause and come back when I'm ready to try this again, because that wasn't a miserable failure, as you saw. Okay, so what I'm going to do, instead of even using a wash, I've done this before, I'm going to use some gouache watercolors. And this actually probably give me the effect easier than what I was going to do before. So I'm going to get some burnt sienna and some black and then mix that up together. Palette here, a little bit of black, a little burnt sienna, because I want like kind of a dirty brown. Actually, I don't want burnt sienna, that's too red. Let me get burnt sienna, maybe more brown. Maybe raw umber. Let's see if I got raw umber here. Let's see what I got. I don't have any umber. Burnt sienna it is. Okay. Oh, there's some burnt umber. Let's see how much I got. Oh, it's all dried up. Can't even. Burnt umber is the one I need, really. There it is. No, burnt sienna. That's what I just had. Burnt sienna. Burnt umber is the color I want. But I don't think I have any. Okay. We'll do some burnt sienna. It's a little red, but it's alright. A little bit there. And I'm going to use this, just the same old brush I was using before. I'm going to just mix this up. And this is straight. I'm not going to even dilute this. I kind of want this like a pasty consistency. Okay. Let's see. What I got here? I do a tad of yellow ochre, kind of a mustard yellow. Haven't used these in a while. Gouache watercolor was like my go-to color things for a while. A little more. I want more brown than anything. There we go. Okay, so it's a little black, little yellow ochre, a little burnt sienna. So I kind of got this dark brown look. Just straight watercolor. Now this has been sealed before too, and we're going to do the same thing with this, but this won't react because this is just watercolor. Let's see if it sticks at all. I may have to flat coat these. See, things are just not going my way. Okay. I have to flat coat because this is not going to stick at all. Typically you can get away with the satin, that's which is on here, but I do not want to do it. So I'm going to go flat coat this and then it'll stick. Because it's a gouache watercolor, I just wanted to bead on the surface even though there's no water in it. We'll get there eventually. I know what I want to do, I just can't get there. So we'll come back. Okay, finally we're getting where we want to go. So I went ahead and flat coated these guys, And I'm just doing a little area at a time. I mixed up some of those ghost watercolors again, the black, the burnt sienna, and a little bit of the yellow ochre. I'm just going a little area by area. You can see what it did. I just kind of plastered it on there, kind of really messy, and then I just went in and I just kind of wiped away the excess. So I'm just going to do a section at a time because the ghost watercolor tends to dry really fast, and I don't want to do too much at once and not be able to wipe it off. So just kind of put it on there, kind of like that. Don't have to be real neat about it. And I've got a little cup here with some water, and you're going to use a lot of Q-tips. Get a lot of Q-tips out. And just very lightly with a little small amount of water, and they're just going to kind of come in here and start wiping this away. And again, you want to leave a good amount of this behind. And you want to just leave this in the recesses as much as possible. Excuse my dog in the background again. Again, we're just basically, if you ever have heard of an enamel reverse wash, we're doing the same thing. We're just using watercolors instead of enamel paints. Because apparently the enamel reacts to the Krylon, which I've never had that happen before, so I'm not sure what that was about. So then we got that little area done. This is a slow process, a lot of cleanup. So you can see here we kind of got that nice grungy look in the recesses. Bringing out all the details. And then we're going to go back again at the very end. We're going to do another dry brush that gold and just trying to hit the really high points. You can see again, this is not a, you don't have to be careful with this. You can still, even with the matte coat, it's still kind of wanting to beat on the surface, which is kind of weird. I shouldn't be doing that. That's what I'm fighting, is the surface tension. Not sure why I've got that going on, but we'll make it work. My freaking dog is going berserk again in the background. Okay. Again, Q-tip, just a little bit of water on it. Start wiping some of this away. It's a very messy process, but it looks amazing when you're done. So I'll just do, maybe I'll just finish up the center section on camera and then do the rest off, because this could take a little while. And you don't want to hear my dog whine in the background for the next hour or so while I do this. Why don't you take them both upstairs with you, up into the playroom? Oh, you need to feed them too. Go and feed them. Yeah, it's looking good. And then when I do that last highlighted gold on here, it's going to really pop. So that's basically the process. So I'm going to do that over the whole thing. I'll come back and take a look at it, and anywhere we took too much off, we can add a little bit more. If we need to take some more off in there, we can take a little more off. This is being watercolor. You gotta do is add a little water and I'll reactivate it. It will not stick permanently. It may stain it a little bit, which is okay, but it's not gonna stay on permanently. But that's the look we're going for. So I'll come back when I'm done with that. Okay, so I'm just now finishing cleaning this up, and it's looking pretty good. So the next step will be to seal this again. Now, before you, if you're doing something like this, before you seal it, you want to make sure you got everything off that you want to get off, because once you seal it, you can't go back and remove anymore. You can always do this step again if you want, but you can't remove anymore. So this is looking pretty good. You can see the whole thing's darkened down quite a bit. It's gotten stained a little bit, but that's okay because we want this kind of grimy look. And we got all this nice kind of dirt and grime and all the recesses. The details are coming out now. I also want to make sure that there's none of this watercolor on the infinity stones, because I want those to be nice and smooth. So I'm going to clean those off as much as possible. And trying to get rid of any kind of streaks that may have been left from the Q-tips. You can see I'll dip the water in here and then I'll roll it off on my finger and get kind of the excess moisture off. Roll it on my hand. I think this is looking pretty good. A little hard to get between the fingers, but it's okay because you really don't see that. Can't see between them too well anyway. Okay, I'm going to wash this brush out so I'm going to seal this one and then do the dry brushing of gold, the last bit of dry brushing on it. I think the last bit of dry brushing, we'll see. So I'm going to bring it back to gold. It's still kind of looking bronzy copperish. That's okay. Let's make sure we don't want to take any more off. You can kind of go in there and pinpoint areas you want to take some more off. When I was doing this, I went back and actually added some more because I took too much away in the center area and some of those details I wanted to bring out a little bit more, and I took too much of the watercolor off, so I went back and added some more and just made sure when I took it off again I didn't take as much off. Like in here I want to take some of this more off. I think there's a lot of detail in between these bolts right there. I'll leave a little bit of that wash will get left behind to bring out the bolts and stuff. Okay. And also right here on the tip of the thumb. I don't want any there. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Alright, so I'm going to go seal this, and then we'll brush some more gold. That, and then, so I got a bunch of little fuzzies from the Q-tips, so I just was going through and kind of picking those out by hand. So that's one thing about using the regular Q-tips is they leave fuzzies behind. You can use like Tamiya hobby Q-tips. They are lint free, but they're crazy expensive. And I have a bunch. I just these are bigger, so they go faster as far as that step went. So now for this dry brushing step, I'm gonna use this Vallejo Gold. Now they've got a bunch of different shades of gold in this, and I really like these paints. There's regular gold. There's old gold. There's let's see what else I got. I got like a green gold, and there's red gold. Actually, red gold is one of my favorite tones, but it's more copper than it is gold, so we're gonna stay away from that. So out of these three, we got gold, green gold, and gold, green gold, and gold. Gold. We got green gold, gold in the middle, and then we got old gold. I think I'm gonna go with just the regular gold because again, this is getting a little too red. I'm not a fan of that one, so we're gonna just go with gold. Shake this up. Just have a stiff brush. I'm gonna make sure this is mixed up really good. Because the pigments on this tend to settle pretty easily. And the lid was loose. Yay! Hope I didn't get it on anything. That's happened to me in the past. Just clean the lid off a little bit. And my hands are full of gold paint. My dog is freaking out for some reason. I'm gonna pause, be right back. Alright, I had to go yell at my dog. Alright, so I gotta suck that up, stiff brush. Again, take most of it off. Start to bring back that gold look. And then all that kind of grime and stuff we did, and if that gets a little gold on, it's okay. So in this step, you really want to start. You really want to build it up because you don't want to put too much on accidentally and lose your wash that you did. You don't want to get any of that gold down really too deep into the recesses. So I'm just trying to use the flat part of the brush mostly. That's looking really good. I think you guys are gonna like this. So you can still see all the way down to that kind of copper undertone. That was the first layer in kind of getting the details that come out. In this big area, we're just kind of buff it on a little bit. I actually have enough on my paper towel here. I can just probably pick it up off of there. So if you want to avoid kind of getting some of this in areas you don't want, use the flat part of the brush like this, and you'll really just hit the very top parts of whatever it is you're going over. If you want to get some down, like kind of I got a little flat area here, I'm just very lightly using the tips of the brush, and then I can get a little bit on there. It'll give it a gold tint, but it's not, I'm not painting over all the stuff I've done. It's just basically shifting the color to gold instead of that copperish kind of base color we had going on. And this you just build up until you get the look you want. Sorry, my hand's in the way. I'm just kind of getting in the little, this area down here by the wrist. Gotta pause, be right back. Sorry to pause, my wife was texting me. Alright, so, I was dry brushing while I did that. So, I pretty much have this done now, I think. This looks pretty much spot on to Marcus's reference. This looks fucking awesome. Really, really happy with this. So I'll do this to the other one. And then we'll paint the infinity stones. So like down here, this is really neat detail. I want to try to get a little bit, even on here, it's looking more red than it is. My camera adds a lot of red. But this looks pretty much damn spot on to the reference Marcus gave me. There we go. So I go in there, and then those details pop out. We're going to just hit the high spots. Yeah, this looks really good. It's off camera. So anywhere where I'm just seeing a little too much of the initial copper coming through, I'm just making sure I tint that to gold, so it's not so so coppery looking. I still want to see it. I just don't want it to blatantly say, "Oh, look, you put copper down first." I do want that warm undertone, which is what I got going on. I just gotta make sure I paint the infinity stones the right colors in the right order. Man, this looks really good. Really, really happy with this. So I'm gonna go ahead and seal this, and I think the gold is done. It looks freaking amazing. And then we'll actually, you know what I'll do? Yeah, I'm going to seal it, and then I'll come back in and paint the infinity stones with the base color, which will be like a silver paint. So I'm going to do that, and I'll come back. Okay, so I think I finished the gauntlet. I didn't record the rest of the Infinity Stone painting because I just started doing it. But I'll tell you what I did. Not too hard. Basically, I base coat everything with Vallejo Metal Color Chrome. It's not really chrome, it's just like a bright silver. Let that dry. And then I went in with Badger Minotaur Ghost Tints. I've had these for a long time. I really haven't used them a whole lot, but I really like them. The hand brushed beautifully. And I just put them on my palette down here, just one drop, and I just hand painted the ghost tint on top of that silver. The only color of that I didn't use was the green. It was too like forest green, but I had some of this MIG Ammo Crystal acrylic, which is a clear acrylic also, and I put that on there. And I had to put several coats. Like when you first put the orange on, actually it looks yellow, so there's like 4 or 5 coats of the orange to get it to look orange. So every color has a couple coats on to get the color and the vibrance. And then once that dried, I just went over again with my hand with some clear acrylic to get them glossy and shiny. So now we got this nice gold gauntlet with some weathering and wear and stuff with the Infinity Stones. I think it looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. So sent a photo to Marcus. Not sure if he'll respond tonight because again our time differences, but I think this looks really good. This looks pretty much spot on to his reference photo he sent me. Fortunately, the reference photo is really dark, but this is pretty much bang on to what he sent me, so I think he'll like it. But that's it for the gauntlet. I think it's done. So I'm going to call it a night. It's late, and we'll continue tomorrow. Alright, what's up everyone? So, continuing on with the Graven Labs Silver Surfer paint up. Let's see if my camera will settle out here. So I'm working on the joints of the fingers and the base. I've got one light that's out, so it looks a little dark. And the color of my camera is weird. It adds a lot of red. The hand is not this purple. It's actually more of a maroon color, which is more accurate. My camera's moving, so I'm waiting to see if it stops before I start showing you what I'm doing. So let me do this. Hold on. As usual, nothing but the best camera work from yours truly. There, pause. Okay, so that seems to be working. So I sprayed these up actually a couple weeks ago. They look really good. There's some slight shading in the joints, which is interesting about the color that I use is that the shading's there. It's just really subtle, which looks good to me in my opinion. So all that's left on these really is to paint the joints and these bolts. And for that I'm just using one of my standbys, Vallejo Metal Color Steel. I love these paints. They hand brush beautifully, and they have an interesting characteristic. Actually, the more you work it, the better they look, and that's really rare for a metallic. Usually metallic, you don't want to mess with it too much. But these are actually kind of designed to, now that I'm doing that technique on this, but they're designed to kind of be buffed on, and they're actually very durable. I'm not even going to seal these because I just like the way they look after they've been painted. And once they're dry, they're pretty damn tough. I mean, and they're acrylic, so... Vallejo kind of hit a home run with these, actually, in my opinion. These are some of my favorite metallic paints out there. My only crit with them is I wish the color range was better. They have like 12 colors, and out of the 12, like 6 of them look almost virtually identical. So I wish there was more delineation between the colors. That's my only crit. So I'm just going through, I'm going to hand paint all these. This will take a while. So I'm going to go ahead and do both prototypes, all the fingers and stuff, and all the spaces between the on the hand part of the, let's see, mind frame on the hand part of the base. So this will take a while, so I'm gonna throw a movie on, maybe 2, and get to town. And then after this part is done, then the only thing left on the base is to kind of work the, I call it the wave, or the Marcus is calling it the portal. He wants me to do a few little things to it, so kind of saving that for last, 'cause I'm still trying to come up with a game plan in my head on how to tackle it. Because when I did it solely based on the reference photos, which is it's a solid color with some stars on it. Marcus wants some some different colors in there. So if I would have known that, I would have approached it differently, because I would have worked a little differently. I would have worked light to dark, and everything's kind of dark already. So not dark, but I would have approached it a little bit differently. So yeah, so I'm going to spend the next several hours doing this. I've got 10 fingers to do and 2 hands, so this will take a while. But when I'm done, I'll come back and show you what it looks like. I want to show you kind of like the technique for these metal color paints. It works really. I wish I had one bulb that's out of here, so unfortunately my light's not the best right now. Not that's ever great, but so like on big areas like this, what I do is, as I'm brushing, I basically work it back and forth, and as I do that, it kind of buffs out the paint. So we get it better. I think what we're going to do is, I'm going to swap out a bulb real quick. Let's see if I take this one out. Let's do that. This will help. I got 4 of these IKEA work lights. That help? Is that better? Maybe. Okay. So what I do is, let me show you on another area. I should have done it. I'll do it right here on this part of this joint. So the first thing I do is I go in there and I just basically outline the joint with this paint. The one thing is this, you gotta kind of watch with this paint is bubbles. It likes to leave bubbles, but you just kind of work them out as you go. So I just got a small flat brush here, and it covers pretty good. Not quite in one coat, but you do it once, and then by the time you're ready to go around again, it covers when you go over it a second time. So this stuff covers really well. And I like this little flat brush because I can actually kind of get it to a point, get it right into the crevice there. So I'm just going to do this section of this joint because it's a good area to show you how to use this paint properly to get the best results. If you're not spraying it, it sprays good too, but hand brush is really good. I tend to like hand brushing it better than spraying it. I briefly thought about masking all these, but I thought, man, that would just take flipping forever. All right, so I was going to outline this area of the joint first. Normally I go around the whole thing and then I would do this next part, but I want to show you how this paint works the best in my opinion. All right, we're just going to fill in this area. I used to do zero hand painting. When I did mix, I never did any hand painting and I hated it. I masked everything. I'm starting to like it more. Okay. So now we're just going to kind of put it on here pretty liberally. And this stuff really doesn't leave any brush marks. So put a good, put it on pretty liberally. And then it'll start to dry relatively quick. It's acrylic. And so what I do is, as this starts to dry, I just start to work it. And I just kind of go back and forth. Usually you just want to go in one direction, but this stuff is kind of designed to buff. So as you do this, as it dries, it shines up. I did this same technique on the Hellboy bases. If you ever go back and watching those work in progress videos, I used these same colors and I basically scrubbed the paint on. I really didn't paint it. I put it on really wet and I used a really crappy brush and I just basically buffed it out. And I was able to blend several of the colors together and it gave me a really cool effect. So now it's starting to dry. I'm just going to go in here and start kind of working it. If you get some on the other areas, just get some water before it dries and it comes right off the water. But once it dries all the way, it's really good stuff. And you notice that you don't see my brush strokes. Again, this paint it's interesting because the more you work it, the better it looks. So you can see it's starting to shine up a little bit. And now it's pretty much dry. And I can kind of add a little more pressure to it. Take out a little bit right here. Just got a Q-tip on the side, and I just put a little bit of saliva on it, comes right off. So now now that it's pretty much dry, I'm gonna go in here and kind of buff it out. Now my brush is fairly dry, most of the paint is off of it. I'm putting kind of medium pressure on it. So in the large areas where I can do this really well, I've been doing this kind of buffing it out. And there you go, you got a really nice metallic look. This stuff is really freaking amazing. So you can see like right here where there's no paint, nothing's coming off my brush. But now the paint is dry, I can go in there and polish it up a little bit. And nothing, I mean, it's not coming off. And right now I'm putting fairly good pressure on it. So unless I really bear down where I hit it with the metal part of the brush, it's not going to come off. But that's how you use this paint, and you get this really nice look to it. So that's how you use this Vallejo metal colors. If you're hand brushing and you want to kind of get a polished metal look, same thing I did here, just with the same brush. This area I didn't polish actually. You can see the difference. I just brushed this on, I didn't go back and polish it. But now if I come back in here, I can. Now that it's dry, I can come in here and I'll buff up a little bit. You can see it shine up. It is better to do it as it dries. Once it's dried completely, you really can't do it as well or as easily. So like I could just go in here and put another coat on and kind of do this step and it'll polish up, but it's getting a little shinier. You actually don't see this joint pretty much at all once it's on the base because it's got a panel that covers it and you don't see the bottom side, but that's how you use this Vallejo metal color for hand brushing. You want to kind of get a polished metal look. You literally buff it on as it dries and it looks amazing. So we'll continue. Extremely long time, but we got the joints painted and the stripes painted and the bolts painted on the hand. So the hand is pretty much done, except for I got little touch-ups here and there. So that looks really good. Really happy with how that turned out. That took probably 5 hours to do this one. On the other hand, I went ahead and painted the stripes. I'll work on the joints on that. So now what I'm doing is on the lens. This is kind of funny because I asked Marcus, what do you want the lens to look like? And he's like, what lens? I'm like, the lens in the hand. He's like, what do you mean? He's like, well, it lights up. He's like, oh, it's not supposed to light up. So initially he wanted, and I've sent him a message, I didn't get an answer. He wanted like a star field or kind of like in this, but it's just a bunch of concentric rings. So I'm doing is I'm going to mask off all the lower recessed areas. You can see I'm putting silly putty in there now. And then I'll mask off the center. I'll mask off this very center here, I think. And it's basically going to go the same color as the hand. And there's some little details in here. We're going to paint the same metallic as this, just so it's the same kind of color scheme. But it wasn't supposed to get a light up feature, so apparently the factory decided to add that feature to it. So these are it's a really tight fit actually, maybe a little too tight. The magnets are very strong, and this is one of the cases where I think the magnets are a little too strong for this. It's really hard to get out once you put in. So yeah, basically just putting silly putty in there. I'm going to paint the rest of it the same color as the hand, so that's going to take a while. Okay, getting in the home stretch of the Graven Lab Silver Surfer. going in and doing some shading on the silver per Marcus's request. The one on the right here has had some done, and the one on the left has not. So it's very, very subtle. I don't want to go in too dark, but it does help bring out some of the shapes and details. So it's very subtle, but it's there. So I'm going to show you how to do that real quick, just on the head, and I'm going to do the whole statue like that. So I've got Mr. Color GX101 clear black in my spray, in my airbrush. I've got it in my Iwata HPCS Plus, and I've got my needle guard set, so it only comes out a little bit at a time. So I've got it dialed down pretty well. So I got it, so just a little bit comes out, and we're just gonna go in here and hit all the little areas, like right here in the cheekbone. Basically, it's like 1 or 2 passes. Like that's it. That's all we're gonna do. Around the ear here. Right here along this line. Up under the eyes. Very subtly, because this color kind of already naturally kind of, because of its reflectiveness, kind of looks shaded already. And this builds up really quick on top of this silver, so we're just going to do a little bit at a time. Again, I'm having to turn this kind of in all the different directions of the light to see where all the shapes are, because sometimes they're hard to see just from one angle. Here in the temple, I'm backed off quite a bit. It's a big area to kind of add a little shape to. The eyebrows a little bit. That's really about it. That's all we're going to do. Not a whole lot. The trick is going to be trying to keep this consistent between all the parts. So I'm going to hit underneath the chin here a little bit. And unlike when I do other shading, I'm not going to go back in and kind of fog everything. I'm not going to do that because I want to keep the brightness of the silver I got going on. So let's compare the two. Pretty good. You can kind of see it there. May add a little bit more to this cheekbone here, just as a comparison to the other one. It's looking pretty good. So we're going to go through and do the whole thing like this. Hopefully it all works together. So we're going to do the whole statue like that. Okay, got all the shading done. Looks pretty good. I'm going to go through and do the final top coat with Alclad number 2. Their clear coat light sheen. This is a lacquer top coat. It's ready to spray. I've used this stuff not this exact finish, but I've used a bunch of their stuff before, and it's actually pretty good. It's one of the few Alclad products I actually like. So I got that. Got it loaded up in my Iwata HPTH, and we're gonna make sure to blow this off and get as much dirt off as we can. And we're gonna just give everything a nice top coat. And this should dry to a nice kind of have a, well, like I said, a light sheen to it. So this will dry down a little bit and we should be good to go. So we're going to do the whole thing and then we'll look at some of the parts. But that shading is looking really good. It's nice and subtle. Alright, so last sneak peek of this piece before it's done. All I got to do is some effects on the, I guess we're calling it the portal. But I'm going to go in and add some dark areas and the stars and stuff like that. But after all the headaches and everything, he's looking really good. I'm really happy with this so far. So hopefully you guys are going to like it. And a little surprise, the hand was not supposed to light up, but the factory cast it in clear, so you get an extra light up feature, and it looks really cool underneath the board. So yeah, I'm digging it. Looking good, guys. Hopefully you'll like it. Okay, so I'm going to finish up the work in progress, the longest work in progress ever. And hopefully my card doesn't fill up. So the last thing to do on this guy is to kind of go in and finish the portal effect. So looking at the original reference photo, it's just one solid color, but Marcus wanted me to go in and add some color variation. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go in with some darker tones and just kind of go into the recesses here and add some variation to it. I just sent some photos and he just added them to the group of it. So far it's pretty much done, except for this is the last step. So I got to do this and this guy get clear coated again. So what we're going to do is I'm going to come here with some clear black. I think just that. I'm just going to do the clear black. I'm just kind of go in here and shade some of the recesses, and then we're going to do the star stuff. The star stuff I'm going to have to look up on how to do. I think it's just like you go in real tight and just do little white specks. I thought about like flicking it on, but then it'll just look like splattered paint. So yeah, this is all new to me. So we'll see how it turns out. So I got my one of my standbys, Mr. Color GX 101 clear black. Put some of that in my airbrush. I won't record the clear coating part. You've already seen that. Looks like this is already thinned. Let's check it out. Yeah, it's pretty thin. Alright, so we're just going to go in here. I'm going to do both sides. And you probably won't see it, to be honest. I mean, this is... You might see it. You probably won't see it until it's slid up. We're just going to try to add some color variation just to break this up a little bit so it's not the same color. I don't think it's going to take a whole lot. Showing up in camera at all? I can't tell. So I can see it here. It's actually kind of hard to tell where the recesses are sometimes. Here, we're just going to hit a couple areas. We're going to do the whole thing. I personally thought it looked great the way it was, but Marcus wanted a little tonal variation, so we're just going to add a couple little dark areas to this. Really particularly in the center here. All this pattern. I don't want to make it too dark because it's such a big piece of resin, and you know, all the light up feature comes from the bottom, so we don't want to block too much of the light that comes, you know, it lights it up pretty good. I took some photos of it, lit up. It's pretty good. This is a huge piece of resin. See. Yeah, I think you can see it. I think it's showing up. It's subtle. Yeah, we don't want to do too much. So this is a clear color, so this will still transmit light. I'm having to feel where the recesses are because sometimes it's hard to tell because this thing is so big. It's actually a really beautiful, this is a really beautiful piece of sculpting here and piece of resin. This is the largest single piece of resin I've ever worked with. It's pretty insane. I will also tell you that these things are extremely fragile. I've repaired on both of these, several times. So hopefully they pack them well. And it's just from handling, you know, it's like, you know, as a collector, you're not moving these things around. You know, you set it up and you're pretty much done unless you move or you sell it. But, you know, when you're painting it, you're constantly handling and moving it around, and it's part of the woes of working on this stuff is you got to handle it. So they get beat up more than, you know, your typical piece would. Good on that side. Like I said, this looks really good just on its own, and with the lights it does, you see a lot of this detail come out. The ideal displaying scenario would be if you had this backlit somehow in your display case. Because the lights in the base do so much, but backlit, man, you would see this really, really, really well. Okay, I think that's pretty good. I don't know if I want to do any more than that. Now you can see that I'm kind of wiping it down as I go. I'm getting some dry spray here and there, but this dries relatively quick. As long as I don't touch it right after I spray it, I'm okay. So I think that's all I'm going to do. Kind of concentrate in the center and it lights up as it around the edge. Now for the stars. I'm going to take a break and kind of look at some reference photos and see what they look like. I think it's just going in with white, real tight, real low air pressure, just doing little dots here and there. So let me look at that and I'll come back. Okay, so I got a little lens flare here from my lights, but I think I know how to do these little stars. I'm gonna go with acrylic, that way if I fuck up I can wipe it off. So I can wipe this down with some alcohol if I mess up, and it shouldn't affect the clear coat. So I'm gonna use Garage Kits .us paints, and this is a semi-transparent pure white. So this will do two things. It'll make it possible to fix any errors, and it'll be semi-transparent, so I'll get kind of a, hold on, that's beautiful. Use a different airbrush. We'll be right back. Okay, this is completely new for me, so hopefully I don't screw this up. We've got GarageKits.us semi-transparent pure white in my airbrush. I've got my Iwata HPCS Plus. I've got the trigger, the needle guard put in quite a ways. I'm gonna do some test spots down here on the bottom where you really don't see it, so we'll see how this goes. But I think I won't record the whole process. Basically, you have to go in here and make little dots. Like this. May need to thin this paint a little bit. That's looking pretty good, actually. Yeah, I'm gonna go get some of that thinner. Even though it's semi-transparent, I want it thinner. I'm gonna put a couple drops of thinner in here. Too thin. Too thin. Came out like water. Don't want that. Problem is I don't want to get needle tip dry. Which is what's going to happen because this is an acrylic. Needle guard off. I think this is what I gotta do. What I think need is a Q-tip with some retarder on this so I can clean it off. But you can kind of see the look here, and I think I know how to go in and do the little starburst too. I might switch to lacquer just because I'm getting dry tip. I know the technique, and I'm pretty confident I'm not going to screw it up too much. Dry tip. I think we're going to switch to lacquer. Give me a second to do that. Okay, so I switched to Mr. Color lacquer, and it's working much better. For a big one, I can just stay on there longer and pull out, and I'll get a bigger star. So that's what I gotta do, like 1,000 times. So we're gonna do that. Okay, to do the starburst, which this is my first time ever doing this, so they're looking okay. With some practice, it'll look a lot better. But it's actually relatively easy. It's not too hard to do. So basically, I pick a spot. Let's say I want one like right here. It's got a piece of scrap paper here. And I'm gonna spray my paint basically on the paper and let it kind of fan off the paper. There's one line. There's two. And if we want to add a little more of a burst, there's a real light line right there, like that. And then we just go in and kind of fill in the center a little bit. And you kind of get a starburst. So that's how I'm doing it. I think that's how it's done usually. So I'm going to do that a few more times, and then we'll go from there. Alright, well, I know I said this work in progress was going to be over, but I want to show you that I kind of got a rhythm down doing these stars. And I sent a photo to Marcus last night, and he I did the front side already. Now I'm working on the back side, and he approved the front side. So basically the trick is getting your paint thin just right. And this is lacquer, it's Mr. Color, but I've got it set so I can go in and I can just basically I kind of pulsate the gun, and I kind of get a rhythm going. Just like just a little dot here and there. If I want a big dot, I just back off and I just let it kind of fan out like that. The first side took me forever, a couple hours, but I got a rhythm going now. And we're not putting a whole lot of stars in here, but we just want the effect. If I want a really bright kind of small star, I get close and I get a little dry spray. If my tip starts to dry, I can wipe it. As long as I don't let it cure right away, I can wipe it off my finger and just kind of come to the side here and get rid of the dry spray, the dry tip. And just fan that out. So I just basically just pull the trigger back until I get the. And depending on the paint, if I just put a little bit of paint down, it looks like it's kind of, you know, back in the distance. It's not so opaque, so you can see through the white paint. So it looks like it's kind of buried within the some of the cloud effect of the portal. And I'm using my other hand to steady it. I found that I need to do that too. So this is my first time doing this technique or trying anything like this, so not bad for a first try, I don't think. I will go around the edges too a little bit. Make sure I hit all these little effect pieces sticking off the edge. Today I'm going to put together all these clips. It's going to be like a 3-hour freaking work in progress video, but it'll cover a bunch of everything on this piece. So I've got this thing mounted, both of these mounted to some plywood. I got screws going up to the bottom. It's the only way to hold these things. I don't know how else to paint these. I had to mount them to something so I could handle them because they're just so freaking big. My air pressure is pretty low, it's like at 10 psi. The hard part is kind of getting a variation so it doesn't look like so it looks random. That's kind of the hard part I'm discovering. So once I get this done, then we'll do the final clear coat. Then we'll just have to wait for that to cure. And the painted version will be done. I won't get the chrome version done, unfortunately, so I can't do it side by side because I'm still learning the chroming process. And I have to get this done so they can start the production. So as hard as I tried to get both versions done, sometimes you just can't do it. And since that's my personal piece, this one is priority. So like right here in the center, I'm putting some really small ones. Just a little speck. Make them look way far off in the distance. I get dry tip even though this is a lacquer, you get dry tip, so you gotta sometimes take care of that. You don't get as bad as on the acrylic, that's for sure. And I will go in and do some of my little stars too. Not too big. Make them smaller. So like this side I've spent about, I don't know, 10-15 minutes on. It's just about there. The other side I spent like 2 hours on last night. Again, it's just kind of getting a rhythm down. Trying to vary the sizes. And the softness and everything. Just that's the hard part, is getting a variation of size and randomness. So try to maybe do like a big kind of soft one next to some smaller, harsher ones. But I think the effect is there. So anyway, just want to kind of show you that I kind of got a rhythm down, and it's all in thinning the paint and getting your air pressure set right. Makes a huge difference as far as how easy this is to do. So that's the last of this work in progress. And then I am going to do one more video, and it's going to be an assembly video, because you kind of have to put this guy together in a certain order. And it has to do with this big wave, because you can't put this, you have to put the wave on in a certain order for it all to fit together correctly, and also to help avoid any damages. And you have to pick the wave up in a certain way so you don't break it. So I'll go over all of that in that video. And these being the prototypes, they have been handled quite a bit, so there's some nicks and stuff here that I'm going to try to retouch or touch up a little bit. It's just from the assembly and putting them together a lot. But that's just what happens when you handle a piece a lot. You know, you do get some rubbing and stuff like that. Nothing you can do about it. So I think it's looking pretty good. So last video will be an assembly video. Thanks for watching. Catch you guys next time.